Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Thursday, January 2nd. I hope everyone is well. You're watching us right now on YouTube. You're watching us on Facebook. You're watching us on Twitter. And I say thank you very much. In all transparency, this podcast tonight was recorded just a couple of hours prior. As a matter of fact, it was recorded right before the Canada-Czech quarterfinal game at the World Junior Hockey Tournament. Why? Well, because we figured if the game is going to start close to about 7:40 p.m. or so, at that point, it's not going to be finished by 10 o'clock. We don't want to take you away from your television sets to watch the podcast until, of course, the end of the hockey game between Canada and the Czechs. And who knows, that game might end up going to extra time. It might end up going even longer than that. So we recorded it beforehand. So once again, keep in mind that while you're watching this, whether Canada won or Canada lost, I do not know the result of the hockey game. It is being recorded before. What I can tell you is, once again, is that I'm here. Brian Wilde will join me in just a couple of minutes. And I can also tell you that tomorrow night, the Montreal Canadiens are in Chicago. And usually I'm off on Friday nights, and it's Matt O'Hayan who's in for me. But I will be in tomorrow night at the conclusion of the Canadiens and the Blackhawks. And Pierre Maguire and I will bring you the Habs post-game edition of the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro. The Sick Podcast, of course, brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Also brought to you in part by La Bittt Tibi, right behind me. See in the fridge? That's what you find over there. They, of course, launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for chilly winter days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can. Available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light, ultra refreshing. And also brought to you in part by Playground. Looking for the ultimate entertainment experience, Playground has it all. Gaming, poker, fine dining, live music, and DJs, all with unmatched customer service. Why go anywhere else? Just minutes from downtown Montreal, across the Mercier Bridge. Playground, your top destination for fun. Probably a pretty good chance that I'm going to be there on Saturday night, by the way. So if you're watching this and you're thinking of going to Playground on Saturday night, very good chance that I'll be there. I like going there on Saturday nights, especially like going there all the time. But Saturday night's different vibe. Kind of like going to a home game at the Bell Center. You know, Saturday nights, different vibe if you go a Tuesday or a Saturday. It's kind of the same thing. Let's bring him in. Brian Wilde from Global TV Montreal. Brian, all the best to you in the new year, my friend. How are you?
Very well, thank you. All the best to you as well in 2025. You had a hell of a 2024. Keep it up.
I will try my very best. I'm going to try my very best to have a better 25 than I had a 24. So we always want to improve, right? And then, you know, if
hold it though, your 2024 was rocking. What are you talking about?
Yeah. We could still rock it a little bit more, I think.
All right.
I still think we could take
never be satisfied
to 2 other levels, maybe even 3. So we're going to try our best. All right, Brian, I wish for you the same thing that I wish for all of our listeners and all of our viewers when I concluded the show at the end of the Canadiens and the Vegas Golden Knights a couple of days ago on December 31st. And that is health, because nothing really else matters if you think about it. All right. So what a month of December, eh? The Canadiens, Brian, won 9 of their last 13 games. Isn't that something?
I remember the last time I was with you on the Sick Podcast, we talked about the, extremely difficult math. And we both said that they have to make it through Florida and Vegas with some good results. And then they got a chance. And I mean, look what they did. They did everything that we thought, actually, I said that was out of their grasp, was just too much, too far, a bridge too far for them, considering what their record was. And they just keep going. They're really, really impressing. I've been breaking it down, Tony, into an 11-game segments and figured that to get to 93 points, they had to be 3 games over 500 every 11-game segment. Well, they just finished a 7-4 11-game segment, and they're 2-0 in their next 11-game segment. So they're getting it done, believe it or not.
We're on the same page, because I just broke it down in the 13-game segment, because they were 9-4 in their last 13. So in their last 13, they played .692 hockey. Now, I believe when we spoke last, I think we were looking at something of a record of a 32-17-1, of a 630 or a 640 percentage or something like that. And it seemed like a very difficult task. But once again, 692 in the last 13 games. You talk about 7-4 in their last 11, and off to a 2-0 start in their next series of 11 games. They really had a fantastic month of December. Look, I'm going to tell you this. I'm proud of one thing, as far as my opinions are concerned, because I'm proud of a lot, but I gave it to them pretty good. As you know, I gave it to them pretty good when they lost the 5 blowouts in October. I gave it to them when they lost the blowout in November. I gave it to them when they lost the blowout in December. I thought that one was really bad. Down 3-2 in the third period versus Pittsburgh. You lose 9-2. I literally thought that the team on that night gave up. Like, they just gave up in period number 3. That's what I thought. But I'm proud of something. I'm proud of not throwing in the towel in the season, because a lot of people told me, you know what, they're out of it. Thanksgiving Thursday in the States, third week, the third Thursday in the month of November, they're done. And I said, no. They're going to be in it till I'm not willing to come to that finalization until some point in January. And you know what? I want to bring up the January schedule, Brian, because if we thought December was going to finish tough, January is going to be tough. I don't know if I send it to Shane. Let me just see if I can get it here. Okay, so we'll get it in about a minute or two. We're gonna pull up the January schedule, and we're gonna pull up the February schedule. Just sent them a quick note to pull it up. You know, Brian, we'll take a look at the schedules. I really believe that we're gonna have a much better idea if the Canadiens are going to be really in the mix or in the playoff picture or not. I'm gonna surprise you, but I'm gonna say right after the Super Bowl weekend, I'm gonna bring it to the 10th of February. I'm going to bring it to the 10th of February. We'll take a look at the games. I know a lot of people are looking at the month of January and saying this is the make it or break it month. I think it can go to December, and I'll explain to you to February, and I'll explain my rationale once we're able to bring up the schedule. And I think we might have it here. Shane, if you can bring up the month of January. Do we have the month of January? Okay, perfect. Let me put on the glasses. Here we go. So Friday, they're in Chicago. Saturday, they're in Colorado. And then Monday the 6th, they host Vancouver. On the 10th, they're in Washington. And the 11th, they host Dallas. And this is going to be like let's be honest here, a very, very difficult 9 or 10 days here. They have 2 back-to-backs. Travel included in both. They'll go from Chicago to Colorado. They'll play in Colorado in altitude. They'll come back. They'll play Vancouver. And then they go to Washington. Then the next night, they're going to host Dallas. So there's a couple of back-to-backs there. It's not going to be easy. On the 14th, they're going to be in Utah. On the 16th, they're going to be in Dallas. On the 18th, they host Toronto. And then the 19th, there's another back-to-back. They're going to host the Rangers. A couple nights after that, they'll host Tampa. Then they'll go to Detroit a couple nights after that. They'll host New Jersey a couple nights after. A couple nights after, they'll host Winnipeg. And then a couple nights after, they'll host Minnesota. I know there's a lot of information there, but I just want to bring up February anyway. So here's February. They got 3 games on the West Coast in Anaheim on the Sunday. in San Jose on the Tuesday, in Los Angeles on the Wednesday. They come back for another back-to-back. They host the Devils and Tampa. And then there's a good 10 days off because of the Four Nations tourney. I think this Canadiens team, with the resilience they've shown us, and even though January seems like a very difficult task, when they're on their game, I think they're capable of beating anyone, right? So I wouldn't be surprised, Brian, if it goes up to the Four Nations tourney before we start getting a real idea if this team can solidify a playoff spot or be legitimately in the mix. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I looked at that schedule and when we looked at the schedule even 3 weeks ago, it was because of their play. Everything felt really daunting, right? I looked at,
you're right.
That feels so daunting. Oh my
You're
God,
right.
Florida. Oh my God, that's so daunting. Vegas, what chance do they have against the best home team in the entire NHL? So it all felt really, really daunting. And you just showed January and February, and I'm going W. Well, back to back there. One loss. W. So, I mean, it can change pretty fast, the concept, and their ability to get into the mix or perhaps push for a playoff spot. And the reason it changes so fast is because their hockey has been so good. And you can feel that they feel it too, right? I mean, you can watch them at the bench after the game. You can see their attitude when they greet the goaltender, when he wins. You can tell that the team has belief. They actually have faith that they're getting this done. And, it's not all about faith. Obviously, it takes talent. But, without that initial belief, you don't go that extra mile. You don't block that shot with 8 seconds left. You don't, work just a little bit harder. And I'm just seeing a lot of things that I love on the ice that makes me look at that schedule you just showed and say W a lot.
I'm laughing because my line to you was going to be, Brian, what they have right now is they have belief. And you said it before I did. You can, you look at the bench, they have belief. You look at Marty, he has belief. You look at the coaching staff, they have belief. They believe even when, and that win versus Vegas is, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, but I believe I read this somewhere. I think it's the first come from behind win after trailing after 40 minutes of the season. And so when you do something that you haven't done up until that point, 35, 36, 37 games in, you believe even more. Samuel Montembeault believes that he can close out games. Jake Evans believes that he can not only shut down the opposition, but he can score. The fourth line believes they have an identity and they can pinch in and they could pitch in. Kirby Dach believes that he's a National Hockey League player and that he's got 3 goals in the last 3 games and that he can contribute. Everyone believes that Patrick Laine is an extra weapon that they have on the power play. Lane Hutson believes that he can quarterback this power play. The defense corps believes that Alex Carrier has given them a shot in the arm and that they can play solid defense. Pierre Maguire said the other night that he believes out of all the turning points, and there's many, that the acquisition of Carrier is the biggest turning point thus far.
Yeah, because it put everybody in their place. Now, what's the French expression? Everybody in their assiette, everybody in their plate, right?
Dans leur chaise.
In their chair? Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's very English. I could have just gone with that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, it meant that Goulet got a chance to go on the left side. It meant that he had a natural right-sided partner. Matheson started to figure it out on the right side. Lane Hutson, of course, comfortable on the left. And then the Savard, who was struggling as he ages out as a National Hockey League defenseman, was finding he was facing some of the best players for too many minutes. And now he's facing some of the weaker players for the right amount of minutes. So everybody's in their right place. And Martin St. Louis made a comment about that after the win in Tampa. He said, we're rolling 4 lines and everybody feels they're in their spot. I think he said his exact words were, and we're coming on. And then they pull off Las Vegas to show that they're definitely coming on. So I think that's what happened. And I think that Pierre is right. There have been 2 changes in their 9-4 in the last 13. Carrier doing everything he does, solidified the defense. And, of course, Patrick Laine. You know, I mean, you're not doing what you're doing here without him pushing everybody down again into the place, because he's been such a valuable addition on the second line, scoring as he's been scoring and turning that line around a little bit defensively, but mostly offensively.
The Canadiens practiced earlier today in Chicago. So they spent, of course, New Year's Eve in Vegas. It's a pretty cool place to spend New Year's Eve, eh? But they figured, the organization figured, and the coaching staff figured, we're not going to keep them in Vegas very long. So on January 1st, they left, made their way to Chicago, and they were off on January 1st. Today, on January 2nd, they did practice earlier this morning at 11:30. And so there was plenty of audio. And the audio, of course, is going to be brought to you by Fruiterie Dillard. We'll get to it in a second. Fruiterie Dillard is a family-run business. They're a mainstay in the LaSalle community since 1995. And I've been going there that long, Brian, especially once again on Saturday mornings. It's kind of like a routine for me. I go out and I go get fruits for myself and my family, some for my mom and my dad, and I get them their cold cuts. They're proud to continue offering the same fresh foods and flavors they have for the past 30 years, from fresh fruits and produce delivered daily to an ever-expanding assortment of deli meats, cheeses, and sandwiches. You'll find personalized service from Tasso and all of his staff, including his son. It's a family-run business. Once again, friendly faces that make you feel like family. It is Fruiterie Dillard on Dollard Street in beautiful Ville LaSalle. Speaking of audio clips, all right, and I spoke about Alex Carrier. Well, he talked earlier today, and guess who impresses him? Let's hear from Alex Carrier.
Il est capable de faire des choses que pas beaucoup de défenseurs sont capables de faire dans la Ligue. Puis le fait qu'il le fasse à 20 ans, il y a 20 ans, Alain. Le fait qu'il le fasse à 20 ans, c'est impressionnant. Puis juste la façon qu'il se comporte hors de la glace. Vous voyez, vous autres, sur la glace, vous savez son talent, mais aussi comment il se comporte en dehors de la glace. C'est vraiment, pour son âge, un pro déjà.
Alex Carrier says Lane Hutson impresses me. He's just 20 years old, and he's able to do things on the ice that not a lot of defensemen in the National Hockey League are able to do. And he says, you guys see him on the ice, but I've had a chance to see him also off the ice. The guy is a real pro. I don't think we need a Carrier to tell us that, but the compliments just keep on coming in for Lane Hutson, huh?
Yeah, and the rookie of the month for December, well-deserved, and he's in the Calder fight. And, it's funny, too, because when the season started, he was underestimated, just like he's always been, 62nd overall, even though he was playing, great minutes at the U18s as America's top defender, who historically America's top defender of the U18s is an NHL defender. Still, he's drafted 62nd because of his height. Still underappreciated when the season started. I believe he was his odds were 1,200. At the sports books to win the Calder, and he's still at 700 to win the Calder, and Michkov is 100 and Celebrini is 110. So I mean, he's still getting massively disrespected even now that he can do this. But he's one of those guys, and I like to say this about a lot of guys that are small. Brendan Gallagher is another guy, of course, is they use that as a real chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, I will not allow this. I can't stand this. And it's a motivation to keep going harder and harder. And all they do is find success, no matter what, no matter how much they're written off. All they do is keep improving and showing that everyone is wrong. And it would not surprise me if Lane Hutson won the Rookie Award, because he's going up right now in every way. He's going up, getting more comfortable, and his team is going up, Tony. He would
be my pick. And it's funny you say that, because I've been thinking about Michkov for a while here. Michkov's been in Tortorella's doghouse on a couple of occasions.
He's going down. That's what I was just about to say.
And chances are he's going to be in his doghouse again, knowing Tortorella's reputation and knowing the way Michkov plays and handles himself, which you get the feeling that isn't always in line with Tortorella, number one. Number two, Michkov is a finisher. He's going to need guys to get him the puck. He can deliver the puck, but he's not surrounded with too many goal scorers on that Philadelphia team. That Philadelphia team, in my opinion, is a weaker team than the Canadiens. You just talked about the Canadiens. They're on the way up. Hudson's on the way up. He plays between 20 and 25 minutes a game. He's on the first wave of the power play now. They got Patrick Laine on the power play. They got Cole Caulfield on the power play. They got Nick Suzuki on the power play. You know what? He's great in transition. I think, for me, he's my favorite to win the Calder. He's my favorite
right now. Just finished a run of 7 games with no points and minus 11. And ultimately, at the end of that 7 games, Tortorella gave it to him hard. And another, he had one good game with 2 points and another bad one. So, I mean, he's not going the right way. I think the biggest challenge to Hutson to win the Calder is Macklin Celebrini, who's got a point per game because of that injury to start the season. That is better than Michkov's. And he plays a mature game. He's not going to end up in San Jose's doghouse.
No.
And he's starting to really find some chemistry with Will Smith. So he's kind of ascending as well. He's not ascending like Hutson is ascending, but he's ascending. I would put them, at 110 each, and Michkov at 300, even though Vegas has it exactly the opposite.
Yeah, and if you want to get a little action on, of course, the Calder Trophy, Betway. Go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200. If your first bet loses, scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years and older. Please play responsibly. Brian, you and I couldn't have scripted that or teed it up any better than the way we did.
I was just going to say that.
All right. Speaking of which, Lane Hutson, he had a comment today on his play. Let's hear from him.
I feel like every game I've gotten a little bit better, and, I've had a couple hiccups for sure, but, I feel like I'm starting to find what works, what doesn't, but, I still have so much to learn, so I'm just excited to keep going. The team playing well has been huge help to me with that, so it's cool, but I think we're trending in the right direction.
The second half of the season is going to be very interesting, Brian, also because, we take a look at Lane Hutson's body of work. Here's a guy who does not play more than 40 games in a hockey season, or hasn't in the last 4 years. So, there's that hitting of the wall, so they call it. We'll keep our eyes open for that and see whether or not. So far, he has played every game. We talked about load management before the season started. Pierre McGuire brought up, is there going to be load management with Lane Hutson? So far, there hasn't been, Brian. No load management.
And I would say, too, that I don't think there is going to be because, one, his age. Load management is something that usually happens as you continue your career and you got a bunch of bumps and bruises and your knees are starting to break down and stuff like that. But more than that, I see.
Well, it happened for Leo Carlson last season, though.
Well, they load managed him. Do you think he felt he needed to be load managed?
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. But they probably load managed him thinking that he was going to be more effective by being load managed, right? And
and I think
we don't know if that was the case, right?
I think with Leo Carlson, I think that they themselves were worried that if he got in a rut, it wouldn't be good for him. And especially, as a forward, if you stop getting the points, then you start to press and things like that. But it can happen. But the second point that I wanted to make about Hutson is load management also happens too when you find you got concussed, you got hit hard, you get banged around all the time. The guy doesn't get touched all game, Tony. Every game, all game, he never gets touched.
Remember Slavkovsky's first season? Remember Slavkovsky's first season? He got
concussions.
He got hammered quite a bit. I don't know whether he was concussed or not, but he got hammered. His head was down, and those are tendencies, right? Because he was always one of the biggest players, one of the most athletic players. Eric Lindros, right? The bigger players,
the Eric Lindros syndrome.
They have that, right? They get to the National Hockey League, and they've always been playing with their head down. And they've never got clocked because they're so much bigger and stronger than everyone else that everyone bounces off them or just reaches them in the crest, and they end up going flying. But once you get to the National Hockey League and you end up with a faster game,
and you meet Scott Stevens, and
you meet guys who just are silent assassins out there, like the Scott Stevens of this world, and as big as you or as strong as you. You can't get away with that. And Slavkovsky, unfortunately, got tagged. To his credit, in the offseason, what did he do? Well, he put on those virtual reality glasses or whatever they're called, and he started seeing objects a lot closer than they were, and his read and reacts were a lot better, and he started stick handling with his head up, and it got better. Small players, they have to use their brain to get out of those difficult situations because they can't win those battles of physicality or athleticism or size. So they have no other choice but to be smarter than everyone else on the ice. And you take a look at Caulfield, for example, as a forward. Caulfield hasn't been tagged early on in his career. He hasn't. And neither has Lane Hutson.
Yeah, because their entire tutelage as NHL players now, but in the beginning when they were 10, 11, 12, always so small, they learn then to not be hit. And so then they get to the NHL and it's not a skill set that they have to acquire like Slafkowski. It is something they have always had. It started like before anything else. Like Lane Hutson, I don't know, have you seen a picture when he was 14? And there's another player who's 14 beside him. I swear to God, there's got to be 2 feet between them.
Wow.
I swear to
His
God,
coach, Marty St. Louis, never got tagged. Marty St. Louis never got tagged. Yeah.
Exactly. So they've learned how to do it. So like a load management for a guy who's never hit, so you're basically just load managing. Is he skating too much? And I don't think there's going to be an issue there, right? I mean, it doesn't even exist, load management for skating too much. I mean, these guys can skate to the Rideau Canal if they want twice. So I don't see him fatiguing. I looked at his numbers, Tony, as well as he continued along in his seasons in Boston, and he never had any difficulty. He didn't slow down his point per game. It was always the same in the, from 1 to 10 to 10 to 20 to 30 to 40. And for the gold medal at the U20s, he went 27 minutes that night.
Wow.
In the gold medal game. Wow. I mean, he was the star of the show.
Yeah.
And already anybody that was paying any attention was going, wow, this is an absolute theft at 62.
There's 2 5'10" players that I can think of off the top of my mind that got tagged at one point in their careers, but I think they got tagged later on in their careers. I think it was later on. Pat LaFontaine is one.
Yeah.
And Mark Savard would be the other.
Yeah, Mark Savard really got tagged. At the end.
But I think it was later on in their careers, eh?
Yeah.
LaFontaine, was it the hit from LaRue, I think? Pittsburgh? I think he got him that was devastating.
But I would say if you've gone so long and you were only tagged at the very end like that, it probably has more to do with just the math that happens when you play 700 NHL games.
That's right.
More than,
That's right.
He did anything bad because he was small.
Kirby Dach, what a difference 3 games makes, huh? Now, it wasn't perfect because even last game in the win versus Vegas, in which he scored the game-winning goal, there was a turnover by him in the offensive zone on goal number 1 with the puck going the other way. And on goal number 2, once Liney's the first man back and picks up the puck that Pietrangelo dumps in, and he's hit off the puck by Pearson, Hanifin should be Kirby Dach's guy, so he doesn't pick up the point man. So without the puck, it's still not perfect. There's a struggle. But with the puck, which is very important too, Kirby Dach has 3 goals in his last 3 games, and in 2 of those games, game winners. Let's hear from Kirby Dach.
It's been good. I think it's been a combination of a lot of things, and it feels good for things to pay off and for them to start working offensively and producing and helping out. I've kind of just stuck to the grind and worked my way through it and continued to try to do all the little things over and over the right way, and I think over time it just kind of begins to pay off and build up that work ethic and kind of good karma, I guess, is a way to think about it. But I think I just got to stick doing the things I've been doing and don't change anything.
We saw the smile on the ice. We saw the reaction after scoring a couple of goals. I think Aiden Hill would have liked to have had that one back, right? He was reading pass and it beat him 5-hole. We saw the smile in the locker room. What a difference 3 games can make.
And the reaction on the breakaway goal.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk about that monkey off the back. It wasn't even the goal before. I think he felt the monkey off the back. I think it was on the second goal on the breakaway where he recognized in himself that he made a high talent move.
Yes.
A high talent pass, and he made a high talent finish. It wasn't just a fluke that one went in. It was, a beautiful, beautiful deke.
Yeah.
And then to roof a backhand is not easy, as we all know. And he was able to roof the backhand for a beautiful goal. And I think, like we've said, the whole linchpin on the team is Kirby Dach. And it's a hell of a thing to put on one player. But if you just break through the entire lineup, the fourth line with Jake Evans centering that line, and Armia playing really, really well. He's so tough on the puck to take it off, and Heineman third among rookies in goals, and the third line's been steady, and Anderson's having a great recovery year after the difficult high ankle sprain the year before, because the recovery takes time, as Kirby knows. And the first line is the first line, and Nick Suzuki, I mean, who he faced on the weekend, right?
Yeah.
Barkov, Point, and then Eichel, who's the top plus-minus center in the entire league, only handled all three, had better numbers, high danger chances, scoring chances, everything. So those things are steady and strong, and have been for a while.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it's almost every single night I look at the comments and people say Nick Suzuki's not a number one centerman. And you know what? They say it when he's not at his best. But when he handles Barkov and he handles Point and he handles Eichel, you don't see any comments anymore. You don't.
Yeah.
Well,
at the end of the day, to finish about all of the lines, the second line is, of course, Dach, and the team has right now got a differential of -14, right? They were at the low point their worst, and the Penguins lost. It was -30. So they've recovered, and Dach had a -21 about 5 weeks ago. It's still -21. So he stabilized too. You see the improvements there in that line, and that's why they're winning a lot of hockey games. The entire differential is getting better, because finally they aren't the reason for that differential. And so with a much better second line, you can see they can be a really good hockey team. And that's the line that's got to stabilize, because you know what you're going to get from Nick. You know what you're going to get now from that fourth line and the third line. They face easy matchups, and the Canadiens actually have a pretty deep team. They got better third and fourth lines than a lot of teams. In fact, the highest scoring fourth line in the entire National Hockey League is centered by Jake Evans. They got 25 goals. No, 26 now. Second is Carolina with 18. That's a big gap. The fourth line scoring. Yeah. And so, that's why the whole NHL is all about matchups. You tell Jake that he can do this as a fourth liner and face other fourth liners and do as well. And then Heineman feels comfortable, and Armia in that role feels comfortable. And what do you know? You're facing three scrubs that are all making $700,000, because the top guy's making $11 million, and that's all you can afford for your fourth line scrub.
I think it was Eric Engels who said last week that a couple of days ago that Jake Evans the best fourth liner in the National Hockey League. And
I'm going to go with they're the best fourth line in the NHL, and I got the numbers to back it up. 26 goals for the fourth line. That's better than the second line.
Yeah.
They've been fantastic. I still don't sign them though, but
we'll don't
see how that goes. No, I don't. That's my take on that one. It's a tough take. I know the popular sentiment right now is to sign him, but he's the way he's playing, he's and his agent are smart enough to know that somebody's going to feel they need to make a splash on July 1st, and he's going to get 3.5 to 4 now.
Correct.
Doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I just think that it all revolves around Kirby Dach. If Kirby Dach continues to improve in the last 45 games, and he solidifies that plus minus as an analytics and puts some pucks in the net, but more than that, shows that he can, manage his way as a center, that means he stays as a second line center, and then you probably keep Jake Evans, because Owen Beck will be the fourth line center, right? Something of that nature.
Yeah.
But if they don't feel that Kirby Dach can answer the call as a second line center, they got to go get one. If they want to be in the mix next year, they're going to recognize that the only hole they have is the second line center. Every other hole is filled, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but I don't see Kirby Dach as an eventual third line center. I don't think that's his chair.
So then they switch him to the wing, but they're still down a center, right?
Yes, but then if they switch him to the wing, you have Caulfield, you have Slavkovsky, you're going to have Demidov and Liney.
And so the second line center is who? Jake Evans?
No, you would need a center at that point. Obviously.
Exactly. Correct. So that's why I'm saying now that you need a center,
Yeah.
Now you've got a surplus because Dach didn't work out. So believe it or not, my take on it is Jake Evans gets signed and stays if Kirby Dach plays great, which is the opposite of the way you'd usually think of it, because they need somebody in that chair, in the second C chair, that fills it as well as Nick fills the 1C chair. You know, Philip Deneau in the Stanley Cup season where they went to the finals.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, it's the same thing as Suzuki. Everybody's like, he doesn't score very much. And well, he faced Scheifele, he faced McDavid, he faced Matheson, he faced Pettersson, who was number one at center in Calgary at the time. Lindholm. He faced all the best centers in the game. And Deneau allowed that line with Tatar and Gallagher, allowed 3 goals, Tony, all season long. And got 21-4.
Yeah.
And 21-4, everybody's like, 21-4, that's terrible. But when you allow 3 and you're a plus 18,
yeah,
you're an extremely valuable hockey player.
Yeah.
Shutting down Matthews.
Speaking of Kirby Dach, what does assistant coach Trevor Letowski think of Dach's play? Let's hear from him.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you saw pockets of Kirby this year, but he was just trying to find his game. He hasn't played a lot of hockey, and he's struggling at times, but there were certainly pockets that we'd seen in prior years, and now it seems, he's got, he score goals. It always helps, So he looks like he's found his game, and he's at the top of his game right now, and that's a huge difference for our team too.
Pockets. He explains it as pockets. We saw pockets from Kirby Dach, but now he's starting to feel good about himself. We're starting to see it. It's more than just pockets right now, Brian. But there still has to be an emphasis on the face-offs and on that defensive part of his game, because that is not up to par right now.
Absolutely. And at the end of the night, you just want to be 1-1 or 0-0.
Yeah.
Like that's what I think that line's shooting for. And then let the power play be everything that Liney does.
What does Letowski have to say about the team's performances as of late? Let's hear from him.
We played 3 real good games, We felt we found our game a little bit before that, and we felt good about ourselves going into the break after kind of a tough game in Columbus. But, to say we're going to take 6 points out of that in like 3 regulation wins, it's obviously a big boost for us. It's a little bit uncharted water as far as this group, and that's the exciting part. And we got to move forward or at least stay present. And, we got a big game tomorrow, and it's a big test. It's, we're trying to just be real focused for tomorrow's game, and it's not going to be easy.
That's key what he said. 3 regulation wins in the last 3 games, because Tampa is a team that you're going to be fighting for a wild card spot for. And you win a game in regulation against them, they're not getting any points. So that's key, obviously. And he talked about that game versus Chicago coming up. Chicago, they're really struggling, right? And if you lose that game versus Chicago, then you look at it and you say, well, all the good that you just did by winning that game in Florida, winning that game at Tampa, winning that game in Vegas, now one of them ends up canceling itself out because you just lost versus a team that you probably should go in there and beat. Speaking of which, we talked about Kirby Dach. He's going to be going up against his brother tomorrow. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw you got the call up. Yep.
Yeah, got the call up from Rockford, his brother Colton Dach, who, by the way, is a 21-year-old, 6'4", 200-pound centerman. Unlike Kirby, he shoots left instead of shooting right. He's picked up, about 25 points, I think, in 30 games with the Rockford Ice Dogs thus far this season. Called up, Ice Hogs, they are. And he's going to go up against his brother Kirby. Isn't that cool? Kirby Dach versus Colton Dach tomorrow night in Chicago. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I see tomorrow night as a trap game because it's so easy to concentrate so hard, right? And take every shift so seriously when you're playing Florida, because you can't get away with anything. When you're playing Tampa, because you can't get away with anything. When you're playing Vegas, because you got to be at your absolute best. And then you look at the Chicago team over there and you go, how many wins do those guys got? And you lighten. You take the foot off just a little bit. You feel pretty good about yourself. You get pretty confident. And then maybe you just don't have that same concentration level that a little bit of fear brings. So I think tomorrow is a really, really big game. They have to solidify this and keep the momentum up against a team that they could take lightly. And they're not a team who can. I remember there was a game last year in Tampa and the Canadiens were up. And then Kucherov just decided enough of this crap. You remember that game?
Yeah,
He just turned it on, and he and Braden Point just decided that they were going to win that game.
Yeah.
And then in the third period, they went out and they won that game. But the Canadiens don't have that type of Kucherov point magic to just decide to only play 20 minutes and have it be enough. Against Chicago, they got to bring 60, like they got it with everyone still, to get the result. So I see it as a trap game. A little nervous about tomorrow's game, actually. We'll see.
Caden Primo says that he received a call from Kent Hughes during the Christmas break. Let him know that he was going to be placed on waivers. And Caden Primo earlier today told members of the media, it's tough to hear, but it's not the end of the world. I'm excited to play. It's not going to be given. I have to earn it. I haven't really played much in the last 2 years. Just being able to get down here, get back to having fun and playing is the biggest thing, which leads me to my question. They play in Chicago tomorrow night, and they play in Colorado on Saturday night. Who's your starting goalie tomorrow night?
I'd say Dobeš, right? Against the weaker team, and Montembeault against the stronger team.
Yeah, they have confirmed that it's going to be Samuel Montembeault, but I was just wanting to see, because I think it's interesting that
Chicago tomorrow.
Yeah, Montembeault.
I didn't catch that. Wow.
Yeah, and I find it. I bring it up because I find it very interesting. Okay, I need you to think about this for a second. Usually, you end up playing maybe your weaker goalie versus the weaker team, your stronger goalie versus the stronger team. And so they end up going with, right now, the stronger goalie and Samuel Montembeault versus the weaker team, which also gives you an idea that it might not be flawed, because it might be, let's try and take those points where we think we can, and where the points are more difficult to get, 2 games in 24 hours, travel included, playing in altitude. Let's put in our backup at that point, and you know what? Let's hope he can do something. But
what if Samuel Montembeault plays great Friday, Tony, and they just put him in there Saturday too?
I think they won't. I'm convinced that they're going to go with both goaltenders this weekend. They've confirmed Montembeault on Friday. I believe they're going to go with Dobeš to play against the Colorado Avalanche on Saturday. I would go to Betway, and I would put $1 on it right now. I really would.
Well, he sure was fantastic in the first one, wasn't he?
You know what? And Samuel Montembeault sure was fantastic last game versus Vegas, especially making 3 huge stops in the last 30 seconds of the game, because, you know, that's when you got to make the saves, right? When the game is on the line. The game was on the line the last 30 seconds.
Yeah. And what I liked about Dobeš too was his desire to catch and kill. And that's something that Primo just did not do. He does not have a good glove hand, Caden Primo. I think everybody noticed that. And so catch and kill just didn't happen. Dobeš would catch it and say, okay, let's get a whistle. And let's slow this game down. And we know that every defense in the world, especially this young one, if they have to keep the hybrid system going and there's a bunch of rotations, that's when weakness sets in. And any goalie knows that when the second and third and fourth shot comes, weakness sets in. So I really liked in that one start, any chance he had to slow the game down, to freeze the puck and make a whistle and start anew with a line change and rested players. I mean, I think that was kind of like a veteran presence, you know what I mean? As a goalie who was in his first game, but just having so much composure, he was bringing like a veteran sort of Carey Price sort of style to it in terms of his self-awareness of what the boys needed in the moment.
Let's keep an eye on David Savard, by the way, who left the practice a little early today to see if he can go tomorrow night. Let's see what happens there. And Brian, I'm going to end off this Sick podcast the way I started it, which was talking about the month of January, the month of February. And once again, there were some who thought that, you know what, the Canadiens are done. They're done by Thanksgiving Thursday in the United States. In November, they're done. And I said, you know what, I'm not willing to throw in the towel here till at least the month of January. I'm going to go up to the Super Bowl weekend February 10th. And by the way, who knows if the Ottawa Senators are still in front of them, that game on Saturday, February 22nd in Ottawa, that could be such a huge, huge game. So I'll ask you this in ending. Brian, is there a date that you have circled? By the way, keep in mind that the 2025 NHL trade deadline this year is on March 7th. Brian, is there a date that you have circled which will tell you if the Canadiens legitimately can be a playoff team or legitimately a team in the mix?
I would say a little bit earlier than your estimation of the Super Bowl. I would say as the month turns to February, we'll get a pretty good idea then. But I'm looking at it just in 11 game segments, 7-4 in every 11. And they got a lot of things going for them here. 93 is the number now. That's a pretty good number. Maybe even 92 is the number. And that's a good playoff number, not 95-6 like the Canadiens lost one year. 92 is the number. And here's another bonus too, Tony. There are no teams. There's like sometimes when there are like, you're saying, hey, we're only this many points back, but there are like 5 teams from you to that place. 2 of those 5 are going to play hot hockey.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no teams. They're all below them.
You're right.
There are like 7 really struggling hockey teams in the mix instead of 2 risers, and they're kind of see all of that action before they can catch it.
Washington got in with 91 last year, and several years ago, the Canadiens didn't get in with 96 to add to your point there. Now, there are other teams, obviously, in the Eastern Conference that played tonight. And we're talking about the Rangers who played the Bruins. We're talking about Columbus who played Detroit. We're talking about Ottawa who played Dallas. We're talking about Philadelphia who played Vegas. We're talking about Tampa Bay who played San Jose. But once again, we decided to tape the Sick Podcast tonight right before the quarterfinal game between Canada and the Czechs at the World Junior Hockey Tournament, because the game wouldn't have been over by the time we were going to start the podcast. We want everyone to be able to watch that hockey game in its entirety and enjoy it. So we'll end it on this, and I will be back tomorrow night at the conclusion, immediately right after the Canadiens and the Blackhawks, to bring you the Habs post-game show of the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro, and I'll be joined by Pierre Maguire.
You feel the excitement?
With the Maguire Report. I do. I feel the excitement because, like you, I look at the schedule. I used to look at the schedule, say, okay, they're going to lose almost every one. Now I look at the schedule and I'm saying, if they play the way they played the last 3 games, anything's possible.
Yeah.
And we're on the same page
too.
They have something they didn't have a month ago. They have belief.
Yeah, absolutely.
Belief can take you a long way. You know that. Brian, thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon, my man.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you to everyone watching. Thank you for everyone. Thank you, by the way, everyone watching on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And special thanks to Shane Gaumont at Master Control on this Thursday, January 2nd. Once again, all the best in 2025 for all of you. I wish you nothing but health. Nothing else really matters. Ciao for now. Back tomorrow after the Canadiens and the Blackhawks.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaBita.tb, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.